Hi, my name is Liam John. I'm a functional consultant from KPMG Crimsonwing. Today I'm going to take you through the HR module. I'm going to specify the areas in which Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Operations differs from AX 2012. And I'm also going to show you some key areas of the HR module in today's session. So I'm going to start by taking you through the layout of the environment. As you can see, it's now a cloud-based environment, unlike 2012. On the main homepage here, we've got quite a few what we call workspace tiles. These are quick links to different areas of the system. We've also got in the top right-hand corner, which is a nice new feature, which is the search functionality, where you can search anything in the environment that you as a user have access to be able to view. So for example, if I wanted to look at a list of my positions, I can click on the magnifying glass, type in positions, and what you'll notice is it comes up with a list of anything that contains the word positions. I can see the area that I want to click into. I select that area and it takes me directly to that link. So any screens you'll notice that have the list view, as we're currently looking at the positions list view at the moment, I can now export that list view directly to an Excel spreadsheet for reasons of reporting purposes, etc. I select all of the lines that I want to export into Excel. And in the top right-hand corner here, I can select to export that position list into Excel. I get a few options here. I can save it directly to OneDrive. I can share it via SharePoint. For the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to download this directly onto my laptop. And as you can see there, all of the list page lines that I've selected now appear in my Excel spreadsheet. So I can do further analysis. I can do some graphical data, etc. Taking you back to the home page then, by clicking on the operations icon, we've also got a little burger bar menu in the top left-hand corner here. So this is an easier way to view different options within different modules. So once I click into the burger bar menu here, we've got all our different modules on the left-hand side. I can see I've got my human resources module, and within there I've got some different options. So I have got some workspace tiles, but I've also got some selection options, some drop-down options which I can select from as well. I'm going to start by taking you into the recruitment management area of the system. I'm going to take you through an end-to-end process of hiring a worker right through to termination and all the nice bits in between. Quite a lot of it is similar to 2012, so I will point out and highlight anything that is much different. Obviously, the layout, the feel is a lot different to 2012, and we've now got workspace tiles, etc. I'm going to click into the recruitment management workspace tile initially. What we can do is we can store applicant details onto the system. We can then assign them applicants to various applications within the system, so various job offers that we've already got created within there. What we do is we need to start with creating a recruitment project. So who's actually going to hire somebody into this job? How many jobs are there? Okay, and obviously who's going to be the hiring manager? So who's going to conduct things like interview process, who's going to shortlist them, and then who's going to actually hire them at the end of the project? So first things first, we'll look at the applicant details. So what you can do initially is you can create an applicant within the system. This applicant has various details assigned to them, such as personal address, email information, telephone numbers. You can also store competencies such as certificates, education, project experience, and skills. This comes into play a little bit later on when you're actually looking for that right candidate to hire into that position. I've already started a recruitment project, as you can see here. In my projects, I've got a recruitment project labelled HR Manager. Now, before I take you through that, I'll just take you through the Recruitment Manager workspace that we're already accessing here, so the dashboard. We've got aging projects, and as you can see there on that tile, we've got 6 current aging projects. Now, this can be set up within the parameter settings. It can be 30 days, it can be 40 days after the project has started, when it starts to show as an aging project. Same goes for application deadline approaching tile that we can see here with the number 1 there. So what this shows is any application deadlines that are approaching on our project. So we can set a date, we can then set a parameter which says after this date, so many days, the tile starts calculating. We've got 27 open positions. That means we can actually hire into 27 positions at the moment. We've got 5 applications in our inbox. That means we've got 5 applications for the recruitment projects that we've currently got open. And we've got our applicant list, which will take us to a list of all our applicant details. We've also got an applications list, which will take us to a list of all our application details and which positions they're actually assigned to and applying for. On the right-hand side here, we've got a couple of quick views. So we've got a summary view of my projects. As you can see here, I'm the hiring manager for this project, so I only have that one within the list view here. I can see all projects for the entire legal entity within here as well, whether I'm the hiring manager, the recruiter or not. I can see any interviews that I am scheduled to actually conduct and who they are, which applicants I'm actually going to be interviewing there. So as you can see, I'm going to be interviewing Don on the 16th of July at 12 o'clock. Interviews for my project, so I might be the recruitment manager, but I might not necessarily be interviewing to hire for that position, but I can still see a list of anything there which somebody else will be interviewing on behalf of me. And then I've got a full list of all the interviews within the company. I can start new in the top left-hand corner, so the ribbon bars are all the same at the top here. If I can add, edit, save, delete, it's always in the top ribbon bar there. So as you can see, I can create a new applicant, I can create new applications, and I can also create new recruitment projects from scratch. I'm going to click into my recruitment project that I've currently got on the screen here. As you can see, I'm currently recruiting for a HR manager. There is one position that is currently open at the time. You can have as many positions as you want open at the time, or you want to recruit into. For example, you might have a graduate scheme, you might have 20 graduates that you want to recruit into this recruitment project, therefore you'd have 20 open positions that you need to recruit into. I can also see on here that there is an option to display on employee self-service, so this can be an internal recruitment project, so you could be recruiting internally. What this does, it gives the employees within the business that are already workers within there access to be able to apply for the jobs within the business. On the top ribbon bar here again, I can edit, new, delete, same as any other screen, but I can also look at my applications. So let's see who's actually applied for this job. I've got 3 applications within here, and straight away I can see the statuses of them applications. So I can see I've got 2 in interview and 1 I've rejected straight away. There are notifications, there are emails embedded in Recruitment Management, so when an application has been rejected, the applicant can actually receive an email directly back, templated up to what you want it to say and pre-populated with some information that you want it to pre-populate with. An example of this would be when you book in an interview with an applicant. So for example, Don here, I am going to book in an interview with them. As you can see, applicant interviews under that application record. I've got one scheduled already for the 16th of July. If I wanted to let that applicant know that they're actually scheduled in for an interview, I can make the system send them an email. So what I can do is I can go into the communication area, I can create an email based on the back of that. I can see straight away that interview is selected as a email template that I want to use. And as soon as I press OK there, it's going to allow me to open the template interview that it wants to send to the applicant. I can attach information, I can set up different areas within here, such as a map telling them where the interview is going to be, etc. Once I've interviewed the prospective worker, I can change their application status to hire new worker. And what this will do now is it will take me through what we call a personnel action within the system. So personnel action is bringing loads of different areas of functionality together into one form so you can complete it all at the same time. So for hire a new worker, as an example, what it will do here is once I get to the next screen, which is the hire new worker form, where it uses the personnel action type of hire a new worker, it will allow me to submit loads of details, either for review through workflow, so it could go up a hierarchy chain and they can, management team can actually decide whether this worker should be hired or not, or I can just skip the workflow process. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to skip the workflow process, and I'm going to go to the next screen. This is the hire new worker action. So as you can see here, we've got numerous fast tabs. This is bringing different areas of the worker record to one screen so I can fill it all in at one time and submit at the same time. The reason for this is it's got a full audit log if you actually hired the worker, when you hired the worker, and what details were secured to that worker as you were hiring them. So once we've actually hired the worker, and we've got them in the system, they're due to start work, that recruitment project is now finalised. So we've actually finished that recruitment project. Couple of bits in between on the recruitment project process, which is really nice to have within Microsoft Dynamics 365 for operations, is the fact that you can actually build up an applicant details so much that you can do some analysis against the job that they're applying for. So for example, if I go into my burger bar option on the left-hand side here and I select my recruitment drop-down option, I've got some skill analysis within here that I can use. So if I go into there, what I can actually do is I can do a skill gap analysis job to person. So is this person got the right skills to actually meet the criteria of the job that they're applying for? If I click into there, I select from the name options my applicant detail. So we're going to use Dom in this instance. We're also going to use the job that Dom's actually applied for, which we know is a human resources manager based on our project. And we're going to update. What we can see here is the turquoise on the graph here shows anything that's targeted. So anything that the job has already related to it that the employee must have in order to do the job well. What we've got in the blue here is what Dom actually has on their applicant record. So we can see here that Dom has the balanced scorecard skill and is actually higher than what we need him to be, but he doesn't have the skill of dispute settlement or the skill of recruiting process. So that would be something that the recruiter would need to weigh up when recruiting Dom into this position. Another couple of good reports within the recruitment management area, if we go back to our burger bar menu, we've also got our skill mapping profiles report. So what we can do in the system is we can set up some skill mapping profiles, which is some configuration which lets us know what areas of an applicant record do we want to search for and what do we want to map it against. So for example here, we've got a machine skill mapping profile set up, and we've set this up so that it only looks at our applicants within the system, and it also looks at whether they've got certificates. There's none assigned here, but we can assign certificates, and it looks at anybody who's got the relevant skills. Now, if we wanted to have a look at any applicants within the system that meets that criteria, what we can do is we can execute this profile mapping. It will run in the background for a couple of seconds, and once it's run, we can execute and view the results. So we can actually view who matches this skill mapping profile, and at the moment we've got nobody that matches any of that skill set or any of that certificates set that we've got set up against that profile. I'll try it for the manager one. So if we go into the manager, again, we've got the certificate type that we need, and we've got the skill set that we need to be able to actually do this job that this profile is set up for. Let's execute this. It'll run in the background. Then let's have a look at the results. So let's have a look at the results within this drop down here. We can see that the person closely matched to this profile is Bill. 66.67% match to this profile that we've got set up. So in theory, Bill is the best person to actually recruit into this job. So going back into my recruitment project, there's a couple of other areas that we can also add to the recruitment project to make it easier when employees, internal or external, are actually applying for the position. So we can assign a job ad to the recruitment project. So the job ad is exactly what it says. This is the job ad that you want the prospective workers, the prospective applications, to view when they're applying for the job. HTML format, so you can put pictures, you can put logos, etc. You can make it look quite nice on there when applying. And you can also assign some media. So if we go back to my recruitment project again, we can assign some media sources. So where is this project actually being advertised? Is it on Gumtree, LinkedIn? Is it with some agencies, etc.? This list is endless. You can put as many on here as you want, and you can also put some start and end date details against that as well. Once we've finished with our recruitment project, once we've done all our skill analysis, once we've hired the applicant into the recruitment project, the last thing we need to do is just close it down. And closing it down takes it off the employee self-service area, so internal can't apply for that job anymore. And also you won't be able to attach any applications to that recruitment project anymore. So once we've hired our worker then, The worker is now in the system, and the worker's in the system as an employee, so they actually work for the business now. I can search these in multiple ways, so the most common way to search for these is to go into your worker drop-down within the burger bar menu option. There are other areas that you can search for, which I'll take you through a little bit later on, some workspace tiles that we can use. For the time being, I'm going to just use the Personnel Management workspace tile. This is what your HR team will use on a daily basis, and this is where they'll spend most of their time logging in, going into employee records, updating employee records, etc. I'll take you through the dashboard initially. So we can hire an ad hoc employee, top left-hand corner, or a ad hoc contractor. So ad hoc hiring does not require the need for a recruitment project, doesn't require the need for interviews, etc. If you know somebody that you're going to hire into that position straight away, you can just do it directly through this area of the system. Got a couple of tiles on the left-hand side here in our summary. We've got some recently hired workers. So again, this is a parameter that you can set within the setup. So within a certain time scale of them being employed, how long do you want them to stay within this tile? We've got pending workers. So this is future workers that are due to start. And we've got exiting workers. So this is workers that you've terminated through the system and they are due to leave the business. We've got a little graph here as well, just dictating exactly what we've just described, but in a graph format. So we've got recent hires of 2, we've got on leave 2, and we've got exiting workers of 0. We've got work items assigned to me. Now this is where the workflow functionality sits. So if on a workflow, an item needs to come to me for approval, rejection, for review, it will go to my work items assigned to me. This work items assigned to me tile is on various screens, and you'll notice it within employee self-service and also within manager self-service. You'll also notice it if I go back to the home screen. On the left-hand side here, I can see that work items are assigned to me and I've got one action within there. If I click into that action, it will give me details of what I am actually actioning. So in this case, we've got a new position request from a manager. So manager's requested a new position. I can have a look at the detail of that position before I make my mind up. So I can look at all of the fast tabs within there, make sure that I am happy with them position details before I select the workflow and I approve or I reject. I'm going to approve this one and send that one back off. So that now becomes an open position because I've made the decision to approve it. Going back into my burger bar and going up to my Personnel Management workspace tile again. I've also got a list of all my employees currently employed within the system. So you can see that I've got a count of 85 there. Now this is a way that you can access the worker record directly if you wanted to. I'm not going to use that function at the moment. We've got 5 contractors in the system and we've also got 26 open positions. So now's the right time to talk about the difference between a contractor and an employee. So a worker is in the system whether they're terminated, whether they're due to start, or whether they've just been set up without an employment. A worker is cross-entity, so within any entity that you are currently viewing, you can see a list of the workers within the system. When you hire them into a position, so when they've actually got an employment, you pick whether that employment is going to be a contractor employment or an employee employment. Once you make that decision, it then becomes legal entity specific. They are assigned a position, so they're assigned an employment. They then become an employee or a contractor. So the worker's at the top, and then it splits off into whether they're an employee or a contractor. We've got 26 open positions. As a manager, you're able to request new positions, as we've just seen with the workflow. That can go through a hierarchical approval, etc. This is a really good way to search for workers within this workspace tile as well. So as you can see here, we can find a worker just by typing in their name. We can view our pending workers, again, by typing in a name. We can view our recent hires by searching for a specific name or selecting from the list that appears. We can see anybody that's on leave. So anybody who's absent from the business, we can see within there. And we can also see a list of our employees that are exiting the business. In this case, there aren't any. To find a worker, we can just type in the name. So I'm going to search for a worker called Luke. I can click into their record, and straight away what this will do is it will open up their worker record and all the details surrounding that worker record. The layout is quite simple. At the top, we've got our ribbon bar which is sectioned by functionality. So as you can see, we've got all our personnel actions on the left-hand side here. We've got our position assignment, so what employment are they actually assigned to? We've got version control. It's quite heavy on the employment history now, so if anything changes, such as their name, if their compensation changes within the system, there is an audit trail of this within the environment now. We've got their personal information, bank account details, we've got their identification details, such as passport, visa numbers, national insurance numbers. We've got their loaned equipment, so if you give them a laptop, etc., we've got all of that stored against the person record. Got their personal contacts, so their next of kin details, their beneficiaries, etc., which is also within the system stored against their worker record. We've got benefits. We'll get into benefits in just a second, but we've got all the benefits that are stored against the worker within there. And we've also got images, things like that. We've got their employment details. So their employment details are things like terms of employment that you've got assigned against them. We've got their leave details within there as well. And then finally, we've got their competencies and development. So competencies are things such as any education, any certifications that they've gained, what skills and project experience they have, along with the development side of things, which is setting goals and reviewing them goals. So seeing at the end of each year whether they've actually met the goals that you set out for them at the start of the year. At the bottom here, we've got a summary of our worker, Luke. So we've got their profile, which shows their address details and their contact information. What we've also got is their employment details, so when they started working for us, what their probation period is, what their notice period is, also within there. We've got their compensation details, so what fixed compensation do they have, what is their annual salary. What we've also got within here is performance, we've got variable plan enrolment, and we've also got variable plan awards. Fixed plan is your annual salary. This is paid monthly. As you can see on the left-hand side, we do have an audit history of any pay rate changes that they've had within the system. We've got their pay rate on here. We've got their plan that they're on. And we've also got the position details, the effective date of the plan, etc. Now, plans can be set up different for fixed compensation. You can have a very simple plan, which is a banding from £1 to £1 million a year. And what that will allow you to do is hire somebody within that threshold. Or you could have quite a complex setup, which is, for example, a step-based setup where if they're on this grade, they can only earn 10,000 to 20,000 a year. If they're on the next grade, they earn 20 to 25,000 a year, etc. So you can put some rules and regulations in place for fixed compensation. And you can also put some rules in place to say whether you're allowed to go over that threshold. So it's called a soft, medium and hard threshold. A hard, you can't go over that maximum. A medium, it will warn you, it will say, look, you're only allowed 20,000 on this position. Are you sure you want to go 21,000? And there's a low where you can basically just go over the threshold without any warning. Variable plan awards are kind of one-off payments, so things like bonuses that you just want to give a worker at the end of the year, every quarter, etc. And variable plan enrolment are rule-based variable plans. So, for example, if you want to give somebody a management bonus, but they have to have passed their probation first, you can actually run an event which tells you this person hasn't yet passed their probation, so they're not yet eligible for that variable plan. Once they are eligible, obviously when you run that eligibility event, it will tell you that person's eligible and it will allow you to assign that variable plan at the time. Going back into the worker record then. So we've discussed compensation. We've got competencies and development as well, and this is quite different to AX 2012. They've enhanced it quite a lot. What we've got within here is obviously all the certifications that this employee has gained, all of the courses that the employee has gone on. We've got the education status of the employee. We've got the positions of trust. We've got any tests, any exams that they've taken with the score ratings against them. Any professional and project experience that they might have gained. This links quite heavily to the project management module. So if you're looking for somebody with specific project experience, it'll allow you to search for that person and schedule them, resource them onto that project. And then we've got skills, and at what level have they achieved that skill. So for example, Microsoft Word, they might be an expert in Microsoft Word. You want the system to know that, so when you're doing a skill gap analysis, when you're looking for people with certain skills, you can pinpoint exactly who's going to be the best person for the job. And then we've got the development area where, again, we've got goal setting and we've got reviews. So reviews has actually replaced the discussion functionality that used to be within the environment. Reviews is actually sitting down with your manager, going through your goals, going through your skills, making sure that you've achieved them, setting new target skills and setting new target goals, etc. So if we come out of our worker record, we've discussed the personnel management workspace tile. I'm going to go back to the home page now, and we're going to go into our next workspace tile. Our next workspace tile is the compensation management one. Now I'm just going to go through this quite quickly as we've just discussed this, but there is a workspace tile for compensation management. As you can see on the left, we've got some tiles again, summary tiles. We've got 9 fixed compensation plans in place. So they're the bandings, the steps, the grades that we've got set up in the system that we can assign to an employee when we hire them. And we've got 3 variable compensation plans, which might have some rules against them. So a management bonus only if you've been here 3 years, as an example. We've got 30 employees currently going through them events, them eligibility events, and we've got 30 that need reviewing and actioning upon. So that means we've actually ran a variable compensation event, or we've ran a fixed compensation process, and we've got 30 people that actually are due a pay rise or changed their pay in some way. This is where we can review them. This is also where we can approve them, and this is also where we can actually apply it to the worker record. We can see we've got some warnings here. So that's where it extends over the threshold, but it's just warning you. So it's allowing you to actually process the change, but it's just saying, are you sure you want to do it? And we've got some X's. That's saying this goes past the threshold. The threshold setting is hard. You're not allowed to go past the threshold. Please review and resubmit. Back to our compensation management workspace. We've also got 4 employees without fixed compensation. So this is quite a handy tile to have within this screen. We can view straight away anybody that's been set up incorrectly. So you might have employed somebody and forgot to assign them a compensation plan. We can actually go directly into here and we can assign them a compensation plan directly through their worker record by following that path. Back into the compensation management, and we've also got some views that we can see here. So it just kind of reiterates what we've got within our tiles. Back to the burger bar then, our next option is our employee self-service. So this is typically where all of your employees will go on a daily basis to update their profile, to update their personal details, to add any new skills, to schedule a meeting with their manager, etc. As we can see on the left-hand side here, I am logged in as William. Here's an image of William. And here's some small details about William. So name, we've got their position within the environment. And we've also got their department. What we've also got within here is our personal details. So I'm actually able to edit my personal details. Within Microsoft Dynamics 365 for operations, it's actually putting the ownership quite heavily back onto the employee and the manager to be logging in, to be updating these records, instead of putting all the ownership onto the HR department. I can update my own address details. I can edit, I can add, or I can delete. I can also view my details on a map. So I can view my address on a map screen there. I can view my contact details. I can update, I can remove, I can edit. So work email, I can update my personal email, my phone number, etc. I can update my personal contacts, my next of kin in the system. I can set my next of kin to a beneficiary if I wanted to for benefit reasons. And I can update my identification numbers. So if I update my passport, if I update my driving license details, I can input all that detail myself. And I can also update my image. Now, quite a few of these areas within self-service, image being a prime example, will go through workflow. So if I wanted to put a new image of myself up, it will have to go to manager approval before that actually sets against my record. Back to employee self-service. Again, just to reiterate that we can see on all of the screens work items assigned to me, so we don't miss them. I can view any of my expenses, which relates quite heavily to the project management module within the system, and so does the timesheet. So I can enter my timesheets directly through Employee Self-Service. I can look at courses within the system. I can look at registered courses, and I can also look at any open courses that I am eligible to register onto. If I click into here, I can see a full list of courses that are actually open at the moment and available for me to sign on to. And again, this will go through workflow, so I can't just register onto a management course without getting prior approval. I can look at the details of the course, as you can see here. I can look at the agenda, and I can look at the sessions that are set up within that course. And if I want to register, it's just a simple case of clicking in the top left-hand corner and confirming. That course disappears off my screen, and that will now go through workflow before I actually get assigned to that course. I can view my certificates. I can also add certificates. Again, I can't just add any certificates. They'll all go through workflow for manager approval. I can view my reviews that are within the system. I can also ask for a review. So if I go into my view reviews area, I can ask my manager if I can sit down for a new review with them. Top left-hand corner, and this is requesting a review. Or I can actually view the reviews that I've already had within the system. I'll go into a bit more further detail when we get to the competency management side of things within Manager Self-Service. I can also view and update my performance goals. So if I'd sat down at the start of the year to set a couple of goals for me to actually achieve within this year before my review, I can set whether I've completed them, how I've completed them, or if I haven't completed them yet, how far through the completion process am I? So for example here, I've got HR strategy as one of my goals, percent complete, I might be halfway through that. So what that will enable my manager to do when we sit down to have a review is to look at that and say they're happy with you being halfway through that, or you need to speed up the process, and by the time we next sit down I want that to be 100% complete. I can also set the activities that I've achieved within that goal. So there might be certain exams you need to take, there might be certain meetings you need to have, there might be certain work schedules you need to complete in order to actually achieve that goal. I can set all these up within here with the details, start date and the date of completion. Then finally, I can attach any relevant documentation. So any certificates that have come out of this, any emails that you want to attach to this goal to prove that you've achieved what you'd set out to achieve. All of this will then appear in your review. So when you sit down with your manager, you can go through it together. Back to my employee self-service then, I've also got my skills within here. I can have a look at my skills. I can see I've got a count of 5 there. I can add a new skill, whether this be something that I'm already skilled in or something that I want to target myself to be skilled in. Again, all of these skills and things can be set in your review to be able to discuss with your manager and agree a way forward. I can view my own compensation within the system. So my fixed compensation plan that's assigned to my worker record within the system. So back into employee self-service, we've also got our company directory within here where you can search the company directory for email addresses, phone numbers, etc. Very similar to what you have in Outlook at the moment. We've got any open jobs. So what you can actually do, as I showed you earlier, is you can set a job to be internally recruited for within a recruitment project. And this is where they're stored within employee self-service. So I can see there's currently 10 open positions that I can apply for. And to do that, I just click the apply button in the top left-hand corner. Once I've applied, that job will then disappear out of my open jobs available to apply for. What that will also do is it will set your application up against the recruitment project itself. Questionnaires. So questionnaires is standard functionality also. So in the background within the questionnaire module, you can set up questionnaires, obviously with specific areas that you want to question the employee on. For example, a typical questionnaire that you may set up within the system is a return to work after sickness. So when an employee returns to work after sickness, they need to complete their return to work questionnaire. We've got a few set up in this environment. As you can see, we've got 9 set up. Performance related within here. To start the questionnaire, I simply click on it. I can view the details of the questionnaire, what they're hoping to achieve by completing this. And I can start the questionnaire and it will take me through the various questions that I need to answer in order to finish this questionnaire. Once it's finished, all of the data goes back into the questionnaire module for further analysis and reporting. Go back into employee self-service then. On the right hand side, we've got some additional information. The main areas of here is the benefits area. So any benefits that I am enrolled in. The benefits area can be used in two ways really. Typically, the benefits are assigned to a worker ad hoc. So for example, a benefit would be, as you can see here, we've got a medical benefit. We've also got dental treatment benefit. You might have a pensions benefit set up within the system. Now, everybody might be eligible for these benefits. So what you would do is you'd bypass the eligibility process and you would just ad hocly assign this benefit directly to the worker record. Another way of using the benefits system is the same as the variable compensation. So you can actually set up some rules. This worker isn't eligible for this benefit until they've completed their probation, or they're not eligible to go onto a pension scheme until they've been working for the company for 3 months. So again, you can run benefit eligibility events, and it will bring up a list of employees that are actually eligible to go onto that benefit that haven't already enrolled onto that. Back to employee self-service then, and again in the additional information here, we've got some performance areas. We've got your performance journal and your send praise. Now these are new areas within Microsoft Dynamics 365 for operations. A performance journal is your journal. So this is you keeping track of how well you're progressing throughout the year. So when you sit down with your manager for a review, you've got all the evidence that you need to be able to say, yes, I've achieved that and I've achieved this. So, for example, you might have received some praise. You might have received some client emails which show that you've actually achieved a certain goal that you were set. It might be a certification that you've achieved, or it might be an activity that you've completed. You can add as many journals within here as you like. You can attach documentation to them. And you can attach evidence. What you can also do is you can send praise to other workers within the system. So you can send praise for somebody. Say you're a manager within the system and you want to praise one of your workers. So for example, I might want to praise Luke in this instance. Select Luke's name from the worker dropdown. I input my praise into the free text box and I send. What that will do on Luke's employee self-service now, when Luke goes into his performance journal, is it will create a line for him. And it will create a line for him saying that he's received some praise on this date, and this is what the praise details are. So he can then use them, praise details, when he goes into his management review at the end of the year. That's it for employee self-service. So if I go back to my burger bar menu in the top left-hand corner there, I'm going to finally go to my manager self-service workspace tile. I'll take you through the general layout of the dashboard. So again, we've got the work items assigned to me. We've got 2 recruitment projects. So these are recruitment projects that I am in charge of. I am the recruiter for these recruitment projects. I'll also be able to see them within the Recruitment Management workspace tile. It's just an easier way of getting to them from here. I've got 2 certificates expiring for my team. Again, that's a parameter that you can set. So either day of that expiration date, you can set to when you want that to appear within the tile. We've also got some skill gap analysis and some performance analysis for my team. So anybody that directly reports to me, I could do some really good reporting on. Team skills assessment shows me all of my direct reports and what skills they've actually got assigned to them within the system. So this is actual skills that they possess and at what rating they are within that skill. Are they expert? Are they novice? Are they a beginner? Etc. We've also got the skill gap analysis where you can actually look at whether somebody needs to be promoted into a new position or somebody isn't quite meeting the needs of the position that they're in. So for example here, if I select from the drop down, this will only show my direct reports. I'm going to go for, let's go for Luke again. Now, do I want to have a look at Luke against his position, or do I want to have a look at Luke against another position? I can make that decision here. I'm going to look at Luke against his position, see how well his skill set matches to his current position within the system. I'm going to update, and I can see there straight away that Luke is meeting 100% of the skill set that he needs for his job. If I selected another position, so I selected that I'm not relating it to Luke's position itself, and I select, for example, Catalogue Manager, and I update, we'll see different. So we'll see that Luke hasn't got the skill set. There's a 100% gap percentage there. And in order to actually promote Luke to this position, he would need to undertake calendar planning, planning tasks and projects courses. I've also got some performance areas, so I can actually see my team's performance journals, see what they're putting into the system, see all the praise that they're getting. We can also see our team performance goals within this Workspace Tile Manager self-service, and when I click into there, I can view finer details of what goals I've set for my direct reports. So for example, we've got Luke here, we've got a goal set for employee satisfaction, and when we click into there, we can view further details. So which activities does Luke have to achieve in order to achieve the overall goal, and any attachments that you've attached there as well. We can add new ones in the top left-hand corner and assign them to our direct reports. And then finally, we've got our team performance reviews. So at the end of the year or probation reviews, you sit down with your worker, you go through their journals, you gather up all their feedback, you also go through their goals, you update all of their goals, and then you summarise it all into a team performance review, which sits within this tile here. So we can see all of the reviews that we've had for all of our workers, we can see the status of the reviews, and we can see the date in which them reviews took place. If we click into the reviews themselves, we can view the finer detail. So we can see the goals that we've discussed. We can add any competencies. We can add overall comments. We can also look at the measurements. So what measurements did we use when actually reviewing the goals and reviewing the activities that they've complete? We can attach, so we can attach some signed probation documentation, etc. And we can also change the status. So once we're actually happy with this review, we've sat down with Luke, we've gone through all of the goals and updated them. We've put an overview, so a summary of how you think they've worked this year, what they've achieved, etc., what their next steps are going to be. You can change the status to completed. And once it's completed, that review is then shut down. It applies to the work record still, so you can always go back and review it. And then obviously you'd set up next year's in preparation. Going back to my manager self-service then, as we can see in the My Team options, we've got a number of fast tabs on the left-hand side here. I can view all of my direct reports and their image and in which position they sit in. I can view any positions that are assigned directly to my reports and how long they've been in them positions. I can view all of my team's compensation plans. I can also view all of my team's performance goals, which is a mimic of the team performance goals workspace tile, but with a little bit more visual summary. And then my reviews at the end. So the reviews direct for my direct reports too. If I go back into the summary area, then I can also access the worker record by clicking on the More Details option. And in the More Details option is where I'm able to, as a manager of that employee, add certificates. I can update their compensation. I can view which courses they've attended, what they're registered onto, where they've been cancelled. I can view their reviews and update their reviews, as we saw on the tile team performance reviews. I can also look at their loaned items, so any equipment that you loaned them when they first started with the business and a full audit history of that. I can update their performance goals like I can do within the team performance goals tile. I can view and update their project experience. I can also view just a filtered view of their registered courses that have already been approved for them to attend. I can view their skills. I can send praise directly to that employee, therefore creating a team performance journal for them that we can obviously review when we sit down to have our appraisal, etc. I can request worker reassignment, so I can actually transfer this worker or request that this worker is transferred into a different position within the business. And I can request termination of that worker. When requesting termination of that worker, it will go through a workflow. So if I select that I want to terminate Brooke from the system here. It will ask me the termination date and when was the last day that Brooke actually worked. It will ask me for a specific reason why I'm terminating Brooke. So it may be, for example, she's decided to leave due to salary. Do I want to expire any benefit coverage? You typically would do when terminating a worker. And do I want to expire their fixed compensation, which again you would typically do when terminating a worker. This is a personal action type. So it is a personal action. It will have an audit history. I can select whether I want to go through workflow or without workflow. Again, I'm going to select without workflow for the purposes of the demo. And it's going to take me to the termination request form. Termination request form asks for further details such as comments. I might want to add an attachment in the top right hand corner here using the attachment icon. So it may be that you've had their letter of resignation and you want to add it within here and assign it to that personal action type, which you can do. And you can also view the personal action details. So just double check that you're actually selecting the right date and you're terminating this person and their fixed compensation and benefits. Once you've completed that, the worker doesn't actually disappear from the system. They just are no longer an employee. So they remain within the system. They just remain within a different area of the system. So as soon as I terminate this worker and complete the action, you can see that this is now completed and this worker has been terminated as of today. When I go into my burger bar menu option and have a look at my employee list, that employee will no longer sit within there. But if I go into my past worker list, that's where my worker will sit. So the worker still sits within there, just without an employment. What this enables you to do is still look at all of their past details, and if they ever come back to work for you again, you've still got all of their details within the system, and it's just a case of rehire them rather than going through the whole hire process from scratch. So that's the HR module for Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Operations. If you require any further information, please don't hesitate to contact KPMG Crimsonwing sales team.